Hey, Miles here. It's Monday, so it's another dry fire session, and we're going to continue our discussion or journey into the stance. This time we're going to talk about how to use your arms and relax your arms to help with recoil management. So if you're interested, stay tuned to this video. In the previous weeks, we've talked about how your stance has a very important purpose, and that is to manage recoil. And you can see this when people are shooting any type of gun for optimal performance, and it can range from pistols all the way to large caliber rifles where they have to battle that recoil. But we talked about how that is the ideal. That is for your optimal shooting. And we all know we can't always be in the optimal stance. Maybe we're in a weird position, maybe we're moving. So there has to be something else. There's a layered approach to managing recoil. And when we talk about stance, just so you're aware, other people define this, and this is one of the reasons why there are a lot of arguments in the industry, because sometimes people are not using the same definitions. At Tactile Hyve, when we talk about grip, it's basically from your wrist onwards, your wrist and your hands. When we talk about stance, your entire shooting platform, it is literally everything from your wrists all the way down. So basically your arms, shoulders, everything else, all the way down to your feet. And so we already talked about kind of the main component. We didn't really talk about the feet in this video series. So we talked more about what's more important overall is finding that proper center of gravity. But now, as I already mentioned, we won't always have that. So we have to have another layer. If you have an ideal stance, that is going to be your insurance policy. So if everything else fails, like for example, what I show you today fails, you always can fall back to a really good stance to battle recoil. But you might be leaning over here, you might be moving. So now we're going to talk about our arms, and there's a lot of things that we can talk about. One thing I'm going to share though is to relax your arms, okay, as much as possible. So that's in quotes, and I'll explain why, okay, because everything's going to be different, body types are different, style of shooting is different, rate of fire, caliber, all that stuff, okay. So when you are in your stance, okay, we already talked about the kind of the overall center of gravity that you should have, forward center of gravity. But let's pretend, okay, and for this, you can just stand up for now, okay, because we're not in our ideal stance. And with your shooting platform, your arms, what you want to do is you want to try to release as much tension as possible in your arms and your shoulders, okay? Now, you're not going to be able to release everything. Now, there's a lot of people who say completely relax your arms, okay? And I don't think that is necessarily true, because for some people, and I've struggled this with as well, where I've completely relaxed here, where when the gun explodes, the gun goes off, it's so relaxed that my elbows will bend a lot, and there's a lot of give in the gun. So you are going to find the right amount of tension in your arms, but you want to be as relaxed as possible while still having some tension, enough tension that this gun just doesn't go flying, even with locked wrists, okay? And this is where it's a very personal thing. You're gonna have to practice this a lot to determine what is the right tension for you. What is going to allow you to still bring your gun back. Okay, maybe not as good as if you have a good stance, but what tension is going to allow you to bring the gun back right where it came from while not having this gun flail all the way around. If you're too relaxed, these elbows might bend a lot, okay? And obviously I'm exaggerating, okay? And if your elbows are down and if you're too relaxed, it might start coming up this way. So what I want you to do for this dry fire session is you're going to focus on doing reps, any kind of dry fire exercise that you want, but I'm going to explain one that I highly recommend. But after each rep, you are going to see you would stop, reset and prep your trigger, get ready for another shot, but now you're going to stop, pause, and ask yourself, are you relaxed? Are your shoulders relaxed? Are your arms relaxed? Do you have the proper amount of tension still in your grip? Okay, all those questions that we talked about in the past, you still want to ingrain that in your mental checklist and check them off as you go through everything, okay, at the end of each rep. What we're trying to avoid is this. I'm going to give you two common scenarios here, okay? One would be look at my shoulders, where I push out, I'm prepping my trigger, but now I'm really nice and high here, okay? Now there's a time and place to do this, okay? But if we're talking about strictly marksmanship here and you want the best shooting, the best performance, you want to get rid of as much tension as possible. So if you find yourself, after you're doing your reps, you're taking a few shots there, a few shots here, after you do a few reps and you stop, you're going to ask yourself, do you have your shoulders shrugged like this? Are they high and tense? If they are, one thing that's helpful is to just take a deep breath in, relax, and let your shoulders just fall into place and relax. That could help you, right? Just relieve some tension. And then you want to memorize how that feels with less tension and then copy that in your next reps. The next thing you want to look out for, and this is shooter dependent, okay? If you can shoot without sleeves, you want to see if, notice right now, I'm squeezing really hard. Now, this is why I said some shooters can do this, okay? So even when if I don't have a lot of tension here, it does look like I have a lot of tension. It's just the way my arms are. So from here, it may not look like, or it might look like I have tension, but I actually am relaxed, okay? But for those of you who, if you are really tense, it'll show. And then if you're relaxed, it actually releases all that tension. If you can visually see it, then you want to have a video camera or a partner look to see if you're relaxed or not. Now, if you're like me and it kind of always looks like you're tense, you're going to have to be your own judge and jury. You're really going to have to be strict on yourself and ask yourself at the very end of each rep, are you as relaxed as you can be with your grip? Okay, or I should say with your arms. Remember, the whole idea here is to build a little bit of a cushion for recoil. So if our stance is not ideal, we still have this as a secondary measure, okay? And that can help. It may not be as good as our stance is recoil management, but it can work. Okay. Now, of course, the higher caliber and all that stuff, it starts to break down. But again, it can work. So before I go to the recommended exercise, remember, watch out for those two things when you're doing dry fire. After each rep, are your shoulders shrugged? Are they relaxed? And are your arms relaxed? Or do you have too much tension here? Okay. Now, for dry fire, I recommend that you do drills that force you to squeeze that trigger a lot, because while you're doing this, so you might take 2 shots here, 3 shots over here, you might be focused on your trigger squeeze and moving quick that you actually automatically build tension in your arms, which we're trying to avoid, but those actions normally lead to building tension. So I highly recommend you guys use a dry fire mag, okay? If your gun is a striker fired gun, check them out. This is going to allow you to take multiple shots rapidly. Okay, so what you're going to do is, and I would just do this from compress ready. If you're more advanced and you want to do it from the draw, you can, but the idea is to hyper-focus, and we're hyper-focusing on relaxing our arms, right, to help better manage recoil along with the rest of our shooting platform. So if we are here, I might start off here 2 shots, then end up over here 3 shots, and at the very end, I'm going to ask myself those questions. Are my arms relaxed? Okay, do I have tension here? And if I have tension in my shoulders, then I want to correct everything. Relax, remember that feeling, then do the rep again. So I might do 2 shots here, 3 shots here. And remember, I'm trying to do this as quickly as I can with good form, good mechanics still, but enough speed and even force that it can trick me into becoming more tense. Okay, so I might be relaxed here in the beginning. Everything's good, you guys are doing everything correctly, there's no tension, but as soon as I start moving a lot, maybe even moving and doing 4 shots or 5 shots, that tension might come out of nowhere. And that's what we're trying to avoid. So just like the stance we were talking about when we were talking about not driving in with our stance, same thing here. The pressure or the tension that we start off with, that relaxed tension, so to speak, because we can't be 100% relaxed, that relaxed tension that we want it to be the same amount when we are in the new position. And pulling or squeezing this trigger a lot, okay, this is why I recommend the dry fire mag, is going to simulate, okay, really taking real shots, and that might fool you, trick your brain into increasing the tension. So that's why I recommend this exercise for this, okay? So this is the dry fire exercise I want you guys to do. Understanding the concept or what we're trying to do here is important, but now we're gonna put it into practice. You'll notice a trend here. A lot of what we do is just mastering the basics, and it's fine tuning, okay? What I'm sharing with you right now, relaxing your arms to help with recoil management, is something that is going to be refined over years and years, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds. It might seem simple to you, and you're like, okay, I got it, but if the best shooters in the world are constantly refining and constantly tweaking, that means that everyone has room for a lot of practice when it comes to different basics. And this is a basic here. There's nothing special about this, but it's the feeling. And remember, the way you shoot is going to be different from someone else. So the pressures that you have are going to be very personal, and you need to figure that out. And the only way to do that is to do lots of reps. Now, it's going to happen best with live fire when we're dealing with recoil, because with live fire, we actually get an explosion and recoil. But with dry fire, we're going to simulate as much as we can. So once again, you're going to take multiple trigger pulls, relax, a lot of movement, and at the very end, ask yourself if you're relaxed. You still want good tension in your wrist and your hands, that grip pressure. You want that relaxed tension in your arms and shoulders, and that is going to be kind of the starting point for you to help manage recoil now also with your arms. So this week, do your dry fire maybe 3 times a week, 15-minute sessions, or more if you want to. But the idea here is you can use any live fire exercise that you want, anything that we've done in the past, but focus on the tension with your arms and relaxing those arms. And then you can do other exercises, progress. I do recommend the one that I showed you, because that is going to force you to do a lot more movements, but you can use any exercise that you want. So I hope you guys like this video. Relaxing your arms is going to be another layer that's going to help you really manage recoil better. And if you do the practice diligently, you'll be better prepared for Thursday's live fire session.